I was going through the recovered footage from that missing Alaska Ranger's camera, and I had to pause it frame by frame because what I saw made my hands shake. This wasn't just another blurry Bigfoot video. The final clip he recorded before vanishing shows something so massive, so deliberate in its movements, that even the hardest skeptics are struggling to explain it away. But here's what nobody's talking about. If this creature is real and the ranger actually encountered it face-to-face in those final moments, what did it do to him that made experienced search and rescue teams refuse to go back into that area? The morning of March 15th started like any other day for Ranger Tom Mitchell at the Denali Backcountry Station. He poured his coffee, checked his equipment, and reviewed the trail camera footage from the night before. Tom had been working in the Alaskan wilderness for 12 years, and he thought he had seen everything these woods could throw at him: bears, moose, wolves, even the occasional wolverine. But when he clicked play on camera number 7, his coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. Something was moving through the trees at 3 in the morning. At first, Tom figured it was just another brown bear. They were always getting into things, knocking over trash cans, scratching their backs on the station walls. He almost deleted the clip and moved on. But then the figure stepped into the clearing, and Tom sat up straight in his chair. The thing walked on 2 legs. It moved like a person, but no person he had ever seen. It was massive. Tom rewound the footage and watched again. The creature walked past a spruce tree that Tom knew well. He had measured that tree just last summer for a forestry report. It stood exactly 9 feet tall at its lowest branch. This thing's head cleared that branch by at least a foot, maybe more. Tom felt his heart speed up. He told himself it had to be a trick of the camera angle, maybe someone in a costume playing a prank. But the nearest road was 15 miles away, and nobody hiked out here in March when the snow was still waist-deep in places. He spent the next hour going through all the other camera feeds. Nothing. Just deer, a few rabbits, and 1 sleepy porcupine. Only camera 7 had caught anything unusual. Tom grabbed his coat and headed out to the spot where the footage was taken. The morning air was cold enough to burn his lungs. His boots crunched through the icy top layer of snow. When he reached the clearing, he stopped dead in his tracks. The footprints were enormous. Tom pulled out his measuring tape with shaking hands. 18 inches long, 7 inches wide. He had seen plenty of bear tracks in his time, and these were not bear tracks. They showed 5 distinct toes. The prints were deep, pressed down into the frozen ground with incredible weight. Whatever made these tracks was heavy, very heavy. Tom took out his phone and snapped dozens of pictures. He tried to call his supervisor but couldn't get a signal this far out. Over the next few days, Tom became obsessed with his cameras. He checked them every morning, sometimes twice a day. He added 3 more cameras around the perimeter of the station. He started keeping a notebook, writing down every strange thing he noticed. On March 18th, he found a tree that had been twisted and broken at 8 feet off the ground. The trunk was as thick as his thigh. On March 20th, he heard something in the middle of the night. It wasn't a bear sound or a wolf howl. It was deeper, stranger. The sound made the windows rattle. It made his teeth hurt. Tom had always been a skeptic. He laughed at those TV shows about monsters in the woods. He rolled his eyes when tourists asked him about Bigfoot. But now he wasn't so sure. He started reading everything he could find online about large primate sightings in Alaska. There were more reports than he expected. Way more. Loggers, hikers, other rangers. People who had no reason to lie. People who sounded just as confused and scared as he felt now. On March 23rd, Camera 7 caught something again. This time, the footage was clearer. The creature stood still for almost 30 seconds facing directly toward the camera. Tom zoomed in as far as the software would let him. He could see hair covering the entire body. Dark brown, almost black. The shoulders were incredibly wide. The arms hung down past where human knees would be. But it was the face that got to Tom. Even in the grainy night vision footage, he could see the eyes. They looked intelligent. They looked aware. Tom sent the footage to a friend who worked in wildlife biology. His friend called him back within an hour. "Where did you get this?" his friend asked. His voice sounded tight, worried. Tom told him about the cameras, the footprints, the sounds. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, his friend said, "Tom, I don't know what that is, but it's not a bear. It's not a moose in weird lighting. It's not anything I've ever seen." His friend promised to send the footage to some other experts, people who studied primates and strange animals. Tom found more evidence over the following week. Strange structures made of branches and logs, stacked in ways that seemed deliberate. More massive footprints, this time showing what looked like dermal ridges, the same kind of skin patterns humans have on their fingers. He found scat that didn't match any known animal in the area. He even found a tuft of hair caught on a low branch. The hair was coarse and thick, reddish-brown in the sunlight. Tom sealed it in a plastic bag and sent it to a lab his friend recommended. By early April, Tom was sleeping with his boots on. He kept his radio close even though it barely worked out here. He had stopped calling his girlfriend. He had stopped calling anyone. All he could think about was the creature, what it was, where it came from, what it wanted. The station felt different now. The woods felt different. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow could be something watching him. Tom had spent 12 years feeling like he owned these woods, like he understood them. Now he felt like a guest in someone else's home, and that someone might not want him there. The lab results came back on April 8th, and Tom read the email 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. The hair sample he sent in had been tested by 2 different scientists. Both reached the same conclusion. The hair did not match any known animal in North America. The DNA showed it was from a primate, something related to apes and humans, but the exact species could not be identified. The report used careful language, scientific words, but Tom understood what they were really saying. They had no idea what this thing was. Tom called the lab directly. He spoke with Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead scientist on the analysis. Her voice was excited but cautious. She asked him dozens of questions about where he found the sample, what else he had seen, whether he felt safe. Tom told her everything. The footage, the footprints, the sounds in the night. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made Tom's blood run cold. "Mr. Mitchell, we've analyzed samples like this before. Not many, but a few over the years. They all come back the same way. Unknown primate. And every single time the official reports get buried. Someone makes them disappear." Tom didn't understand. He asked her what she meant. Dr. Chen explained that there were people in the government, in the Park Service, who did not want this information getting out. They were afraid of panic, afraid of what it would mean for tourism, afraid of questions they couldn't answer. She told Tom to be careful about who he shared his findings with. She told him to make copies of everything. Then she hung up quickly like she was worried someone might be listening. The next day, Tom got a call from his supervisor, a man named Director Hastings who worked out of the main office in Anchorage. Hastings had never called him before. Their communication was usually just emails about supply orders and maintenance schedules. But now Hastings was on the phone, and his voice was hard. He asked Tom about the footage he had been sharing. He asked about the lab results. Tom felt his stomach drop. How did Hastings know about any of this? Tom hadn't sent him anything. Hastings told Tom to stop his investigation immediately. He said Tom was wasting time and resources on nonsense. He said if Tom kept pushing this, there would be consequences for his job. Tom hung up feeling angry and confused. He had worked for the Park Service for 12 years. He had never caused trouble. He had never broken rules. And now they were threatening him because he found something real, something important. It didn't make sense. Unless Dr. Chen was right, unless someone really was trying to keep this quiet. That night, Tom went through all his footage again. He had hours and hours of recordings now. He used video software to enhance the clearest clips, adjusting the brightness and contrast. What he saw made his hands shake. In the enhanced footage, he could see details he had missed before. The creature had a pronounced brow ridge above its eyes, just like ancient human ancestors he had seen in museum displays. Its chest was barrel-shaped and powerful. When it walked, its gait was smooth and natural, not like a person in a costume stumbling around. This thing moved through the forest like it belonged there, like it had been there for a very long time. Tom measured everything he could from the footage. Using the trees and rocks as reference points, he calculated the creature stood between 8 and 9 feet tall. Its shoulders were at least 4 feet wide. Its arms were incredibly long, reaching down to its knees. The footprints he had measured earlier made sense now. A creature this size would leave exactly those kinds of tracks. He compiled everything into a folder: photos, videos, lab results, his handwritten notes. He made 3 copies. One he kept at the station. One he mailed to his brother in Seattle. One he uploaded to a secure cloud storage account. If something happened to him, if someone tried to make his evidence disappear, at least there would be other copies out there. The contradiction gnawed at Tom every day. He had physical evidence, real, scientific evidence, hair samples that couldn't be identified, footage that experts said showed something unknown, footprints with dermal ridges that proved they weren't fake, but his own employer was telling him to forget about it, to pretend he hadn't seen anything. The Park Service put out a statement saying there was no unusual activity in the Denali backcountry. They said any footage making the rounds online was either misidentified bears or obvious hoaxes. Tom read the statement and felt betrayed. Other rangers started calling him. Quietly, carefully, they reached out. A woman named Jessica, who worked in Glacier Bay, said she had seen something similar 5 years ago. A man named Robert from Kitmai said he found footprints just like Tom's but was told never to report them. They all had stories, they all had evidence, and they had all been silenced. Tom realized this wasn't new. This had been happening for years, maybe decades. How many sightings had been covered up? How many rangers had been threatened into silence? Tom made a decision. He would keep documenting everything. He would keep his cameras running. If the Park Service wanted to fire him, let them try. He would go public with everything he had. But first, he needed more proof. He needed footage so clear, so undeniable that no one could dismiss it. He started leaving food out near Camera 7. Apples, dried fish, anything that might attract the creature back. He wanted to see it again. He needed to see it again. The waiting was driving him crazy. Every night he lay awake, listening to the sounds outside his station, wondering if tonight would be the night it came back, wondering what would happen when it did. Tom's journal entries from mid-April told a story of a man slowly coming apart. His handwriting, once neat and careful, became rushed and messy. The entries grew longer, more detailed, filled with thoughts that circled back on themselves. On April the 12th, he wrote about hearing footsteps outside the station at 2 in the morning, heavy footsteps that made the floorboards creak. He grabbed his flashlight and went to the window but saw nothing except darkness and trees. On April the 15th, he wrote that he felt watched all the time now. Even during the day, even when he was inside with all the doors locked, he could feel eyes on him. His girlfriend Amanda called on April 17th. Tom let it go to voicemail. She called again the next day, and the day after that. Finally, she left a long message. Her voice was worried. She said he hadn't answered her texts in 2 weeks. She said his brother was concerned. She said she was driving up to check on him if he didn't call her back. Tom listened to the message 3 times but never called her back. He couldn't explain what was happening out here. She would think he was crazy. Maybe he was crazy. But the evidence was real. The footprints were real. The creature was real. Tom stopped shaving. He stopped cooking real meals. He ate protein bars and canned soup cold from the can. Sleep came in short bursts. never more than 2 or 3 hours at a time. His dreams were filled with dark shapes moving through trees, with eyes watching him from the shadows. He would wake up gasping, covered in sweat, convinced something was right outside his window. He started sleeping in his clothes with his boots on, his radio within reach. Just in case. Just in case of what, he wasn't sure anymore. On April 22nd, Camera 7 caught movement again. Tom was checking the feeds at dawn when he saw it. The creature was back. But this time, it wasn't just passing through. It stood in the clearing for over 5 minutes, moving slowly around the area where Tom had left food. It picked up an apple, examined it, then ate it in 3 bites. Tom watched the footage over and over. His heart was racing. This was it. This was the proof he needed. Clear footage and better lighting showing intelligent behavior. He immediately copied the file to all his backup locations. But something else in the footage bothered him. Near the end of the clip, the creature turned and looked directly at the camera. Not past it, not near it. Directly at it. Like it knew the camera was there. Like it knew Tom was watching. The hair on Tom's arms stood up. This thing wasn't just some dumb animal wandering through the woods. It understood what cameras were. It understood it was being recorded. Tom made a decision that he would later regret. He decided to set up a camera inside the station, pointing at his desk. He would record a video log explaining everything he had found. All his evidence, all his experiences, everything the Park Service was trying to hide. If something happened to him, if he disappeared or got fired or worse, at least there would be a record. At least people would know the truth. He started recording on the evening of April 24th. His face on the camera looked tired and thin. His eyes had dark circles under them. His voice was hoarse. He spoke for almost an hour, showing documents, playing footage clips, explaining the timeline of events. He talked about the threats from his supervisor. He talked about the other rangers who had been silenced. He talked about how the government clearly knew something and was covering it up. Near the end of the recording, his voice shook. He said he was scared. He said he didn't know what was going to happen. But he said the truth mattered more than his fear. The next morning, Tom woke to find his camp destroyed. The storage shed door was ripped completely off its hinges. The metal was bent like paper. His firewood was scattered across 50 feet of ground. The bear-proof trash container, which weighed over 200 pounds when full, was overturned and dented. Tom stood in the middle of the destruction, turning in slow circles. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was eaten. This wasn't about food. This was a message. His hands shook as he checked the cameras. Every single one had been disabled. Not broken, disabled. The lenses were covered with mud, carefully and deliberately smeared across them. Every single camera except the one inside the station. That one was still recording. Tom felt ice in his stomach. The creature knew which cameras were which. It knew where he slept. That night, Tom recorded his final video log. He sat at his desk with the camera running. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. He said he heard something outside, something big moving around the station. He said he didn't think he would make it out. He said if anyone was watching this, if anyone found this footage, they needed to know the truth. These creatures were real. They were intelligent, and they did not want to be found. Tom's hands gripped the edge of his desk. His eyes were wide and glassy with fear. He said he was going to try to leave in the morning, try to hike back to the main road. But he didn't think he would make it. The camera kept recording for another 6 hours. It showed Tom sitting frozen at his desk as the sounds outside grew louder. It showed him finally standing up, grabbing his coat and pack. It showed him opening the door and stepping out into the dark. The door swung closed behind him. The camera recorded an empty room for 3 more hours until the battery died. Tom Mitchell was never seen again. The search party found Tom's station on May 2nd, 8 days after his last radio check-in. His supervisor, Director Hastings, had finally sent people when Tom missed 3 scheduled reports in a row. The team included 4 rangers and 2 Alaska State Troopers. They hiked the 15 miles through melting spring snow, calling Tom's name as they got closer. Nobody answered. When they reached the clearing, they stopped and stared. The station looked like a tornado had hit it. Equipment was scattered everywhere. The shed door lay 30 feet away, twisted and useless. Inside the station, everything was surprisingly neat. Tom's bed was made. His dishes were washed and stacked by the sink. But Tom was gone. The search team found his camera on the desk, battery dead. They found his journal, the last entry dated April 24th. They found his coat hanging by the door, which made no sense because the nights were still below freezing. No one left the station without a coat. They found his radio, his keys, his wallet, everything except Tom himself. The lead trooper, a woman named Sarah Walsh, had been doing search and rescue for 15 years. She had seen people disappear in the Alaskan wilderness before. Usually they found remains within a few days. Bears, falls, hypothermia, the wilderness had many ways to kill people. But something about this scene felt wrong to her. The destruction outside was too deliberate. The careful way Tom's belongings were arranged inside seemed odd. And when they charged up his camera and watched the footage, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. The search team watched Tom's final video log together. They saw his fear. They heard his claims about the creature. When the footage showed Tom walking out the door into the darkness, one of the younger rangers said they should go look for him right now. But Sarah noticed something else. In the background of the video, through the window behind Tom's desk, something moved. She rewound and watched again. There in the darkness, barely visible, a massive shape passed by the window. Watching. Waiting. Sarah made a decision. She told her team they would search the immediate area around the station, but they would not go deep into the woods. Not with whatever had scared Tom so badly still out there. The team spread out in pairs, covering about a mile in each direction. They found more footprints, the same massive prints Tom had photographed. They found more twisted trees and strange branch structures. They found one of Tom's boots near a creek, but no sign of Tom. As the sun started setting, Sarah called everyone back. They would camp at the station for the night and continue searching in the morning. But that night, something happened that changed everything. Around midnight, the team heard sounds outside. Deep, resonant calls that echoed through the valley. Not animal sounds. Not human sounds. Something in between. The calls went on for almost an hour. None of the rangers slept. In the morning, Sarah made another decision. They were leaving. They would mark this area as dangerous and request a larger search team with helicopters and dogs. Her people were not equipped for whatever was out here. 3 of the rangers agreed immediately, relief clear on their faces. But 2 of them, both young men who had only been rangers for a couple years, refused to go back. They said Sarah was giving up too easily. They said Tom deserved better. Sarah tried to order them to leave. She tried to explain the danger, but the 2 men were determined. They took supplies and headed deeper into the forest, following the line of footprints. Sarah and the rest of her team hiked back to civilization. She filed her report. She turned over Tom's camera and journal to the authorities, and she waited for news about the 2 rangers who had stayed behind. That news never came. Both men were declared missing after a week. A second search party was sent out but found nothing. No bodies, no equipment, nothing. The area was quietly closed to all backcountry access. Tom's camera footage spread across the internet within days. Someone in the Park Service leaked it. Maybe they felt guilty. Maybe they thought the truth should be known. The footage went viral instantly. Millions of people watched Tom's final video log. Millions more watched the enhanced clips of the creature. News stations picked up the story. Documentary crews flew to Alaska. The whole world suddenly wanted to know what had happened to Tom Mitchell and what he had found in those woods. The scientific community split right down the middle. Half the experts said the footage was clearly real and demanded a full investigation. Primatologists, anthropologists, wildlife biologists, they all examined the evidence and said this was something unknown to science. The other half called it an obvious hoax. They said the footage was doctored. They said Tom had mental health issues. They said people were seeing what they wanted to see. The arguments went on for months, filling journals and talk shows and internet forums. But something else happened that got less attention. Indigenous communities across Alaska started speaking up. Tribal elders gave interviews about stories passed down through generations. Stories about the forest giants. The tall ones who walked like men but were not men. Every tribe had a name for them. Every tribe had stories going back hundreds of years. They said the creatures were real and had always been real. They said white people were just finally starting to listen. The Park Service never officially acknowledged what Tom found. Director Hastings retired suddenly 6 months later. The Denali backcountry station was permanently closed. The official story was budget cuts. The area around the station remained off-limits. Occasionally, hikers who ignored the warnings reported strange things. Massive footprints, wood knocks echoing through valleys, shapes moving through trees at dusk. But no one else ever captured footage like Tom's. His brother created a website dedicated to Tom's findings. He posted everything: the journal entries, the lab results, the enhanced footage. The website got millions of visits. People argued in the comments about what it all meant. Some said Tom proved Bigfoot was real beyond any doubt. Some said he died chasing a fantasy. But everyone agreed on one thing. Tom Mitchell went into those woods looking for truth and found something that cost him everything. The question that haunted everyone who watched his final footage was simple. If these creatures are real, if they have been hiding in the wilderness all this time, what else is out there that we do not know about? And maybe more importantly, what else knows about us?